Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about Ray Davis, running back out of Kentucky. Yep, we're redoing it a little bit. I know some of you guys are like, you already did this video. Well, I'm going to redo it because there was a couple mistakes in the video, which I'll talk about when we get to there. But we're going to be looking at the production data of Kentucky running back Ray Davis. Interesting fact about him, Davis is a foster child who graduated from Vanderbilt University before transferring to Kentucky. So, which is pretty impressive because Vanderbilt is definitely a very prestigious school, especially in terms of academics. And we're going to be looking at his market share production score. So, offensive market share scores is where you take an individual statistic and you divide it by the team total, and then you take that score and compare it to all of their positional peers in the data set that I have. Now, offensive market share can differ in terms of different things, such as total offensive market share, touchdown market share, those other types of things. But what we're going to be looking at today is his offensive market share production, his efficiency scores, and then, of course, his adjusted production, or I should say his contextual production. So taking a look at Ray Davis in terms of this data set, which has 2,312 running backs, he scored pretty well. He had 80 percentile in terms of his total offensive market share production. He also had 85 percentile in terms of his receiving market share production score, and then 93 percentile, actually no, 94 percentile in terms of his touchdown market share. All those numbers are pretty dang great. In terms of his running back production, hits definitely within the Pro Bowl averages at the position. And then, of course, when you look at running back efficiency scores, let's take a look at sort of, yards per reception, yards per touch, and of course, his touchdown percentage, which is how often he ended up in the end zone when he had the ball in his hands. He did pretty well in those areas as well. Did much better in terms of his TD percentage, though. His reception, yards per reception was in the 60 percentile, and his yards per touch, or RRAV, was in the 58 percentile. So those numbers were not as great as his TD percentage, but he definitely did pretty well in terms of these metrics, in terms of efficiency. And then, of course, when you look at adjusted production scores, adjusted production takes the age of a prospect, adds in the offensive market share, adds the strength of schedule score and the strength of team score to give you the MSA rating, and then the pass score adds in the efficiency scores with everything else that I gave you before. And all this data does is it gives you context for their production. So how productive were they for their level of competition? How productive were they for their age? How productive were they for the team that they were on in terms of how strong their team was? And in terms of these particular metrics, Ray Davis did pretty well with the exception of his age score. Ray Davis had a 2.87 age score. His MSA rating was in the 90 percentile, and his pass score was in the 85 percentile. So those numbers are pretty good, and it's even more impressive with the fact that his age score was so low. So if he actually was a younger prospect, these numbers would be in the high 99 percentile in terms of his grade. So a lot of what's holding him up in his data is his market share production, his efficiency, and also on top of that, you add in his level of competition and the strength of schedule that he faced. All those things were pretty hard. They were high level competition for him, and he performed really well. So those are positives for him, definitely. Now, in terms of pro comparison, so this is where I kind of had to fix some things. The last video I did on him, I had Thomas Jones as a comparison here. I had Thomas Jones in the wrong draft year. So I had him in 2003. Thomas Jones actually came out in 2000. Hopefully I'm not wrong about that either, but I adjusted everything and I improved this score to kind of show you some comparisons for his age. So most older running backs do not translate as well to the NFL level. One thing you're going to notice a lot on the data that I'm showing you right now is a lot of these backs are from way, way back then. Guys like Earl Campbell and Larry Johnson and Skip Hicks. Backs typically stayed in school longer back then. They didn't, go straight to the NFL like they do nowadays. So that kind of affects the data a little bit here. But at the same time, this could kind of give you an idea of the type of back that he could end up being. Despite the fact that he is as old as he is, there's still some positives to his game that I think you can kind of see here based on his production data. So I think it is concerning, his age. It is going to drop him a little bit in the draft, but I still think that he has the potential to be the best running back out of this draft class, despite his age being what it is, because of just his overall production profile being so great. And then, of course, we get to his outlook. Ray Davis profiles as a Pro Bowl outlier, so it's something that is less likely to happen because of his age score. It's a long-term starter based on his data. The biggest red flag is his age score, which is important because the majority of running backs peak their production at the age of 26. So typically speaking, running backs hit 26 and then they start to decline. So the vast majority of top five, actually top 10 performances in terms of the NFL happen when running backs hit 26. And then the numbers start to drop off. And typically by age 29 is when they fall off a cliff in terms of their overall contributions in the NFL. So you have a man that is going to be near the peak production age at running back the very first year that he hits the football field. So that's going to be a concern in terms of that. How many more years do you have out of him? But I think Davis is somebody that, despite that issue of his age, I still think he's worth a selection because if he has a high ceiling to his ability and has the ability to translate well to the NFL right away, then you could be ending up with a guy who can, he may not give you a Hall of Fame career, but he will give you a great 3-year span of production that'll really help a football team win games. So that's Ray Davis's profile in a nutshell. Thank you so much for watching my channel. My name is Jim Coburn. You can also follow my Twitter page at Gemetrics, at Jimetrics. You can also check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/jcoburn, to get more data information as well. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!